Ask HG, Episode 6, Part 6. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and I'm going to continue to answer your various questions as part of this Ask HG episode. Stoic Epictetus asks, Hi HG, how can a mid-range narcissist con themselves into believing the cognitive empathy they perform is genuine empathy? Well, they don't actually con themselves, so they don't think to themselves, I know that this is cognitive empathy, but I'm going to convince myself it's emotional empathy. They already believe that it is genuine emotional empathy because their narcissism makes them believe it. They are not allowed to see that it is cognitive in nature. If somebody suggests that it is, their narcissism immediately rejects that. It doesn't allow them to entertain the concept. It causes them to deny it, because a suggestion to that individual, you only operate with cognitive empathy, is what? A threat to control. Therefore, the narcissism steps in and causes the narcissist to deny it. It's a little bit like the narcissist is being created so that they can't see the colour green. And if somebody talks about green, they will just go, what are you talking about? It's green. And of course, let's say they see it as yellow. They'll just go, no, that's yellow. No, that's green. No, that's yellow. And they'll insist on it. They don't think to themselves, that's green, but I'll say it's yellow anyway. In their world, they can't understand why that person is insistent that the grass is coloured green when it's quite patently coloured yellow. And anybody that says the grass is green is obviously a numbskull. Stoic continues to write, if I've understood your work correctly, empathic reaction has to be self-taught by a narcissist. Rather than narcissism picks up on it for them, the unaware narcissist doesn't sit down and think, okay, I'm devoid of emotional empathy, so I now need to learn what's required for the purposes of cognitive empathy. No. They believe that they have genuine emotional empathy because the narcissism does. The narcissism, of course, causes them to watch the behaviours so that they learn, but they're not consciously learning. It's done unconsciously. They don't sit there and think, I don't have any emotional empathy. I must now learn cognitive empathy and what that looks like in order to mimic it. When they react, they believe that that's their genuine emotional empathy at play, not realising that they have unconsciously learnt and mimic. HG. Oh, this is Mr. Bruce. Hello, Mr. Bruce. HG. I have a question, but first I have to say, or rather write, thank you, and I have helped with your legacy with other videos on YouTube. Thank you. You are so right, they don't understand. So I've been writing in the comments that HG Tudor is the one for better advice and education. Thank you very much for doing so. That's hugely important, and I appreciate you doing so. Question. As I plan my escape, do I include taking our pet dogs with me so they do not suffer as a result of me going? Well, ultimately, you are more important than the dogs, which just defecate, sniff their balls, and eat food. I appreciate that you have some form of connection to them. I find it mystifying, to be brutally honest, but that's because I don't like animals and have no interest in them. I understand many people do. I don't find it logical. I don't find it logical forming an attachment to something that will be dead within 10 years, or 15 years, and that takes a lot of time, effort, and money, but there we are. I appreciate that other people have differing perspectives to me. When it comes to the question of your no-contact regime, if you are able to remove your dogs without it impacting upon your no-contact regime, then do so. If it's going to hinder you, if it's going to damage that regime, you come first, and therefore the dog should not. If you want more detailed guidance, because I'd need to know more about your circumstances to evaluate the level of risk associated with the proposition that you're making, please book an audio consultation. I'll be pleased to assist you further. Toy Dean, can't wait for the conspiracy theorist topic. It's getting ridiculous. There's a conspiracy theory that I'm never going to release the information. What do you think about that? Ophelia. You need to change your name so it's Ophelia Balls. That would entertain. Thanks for making me laugh, HG. Needed to. You're most welcome, Ophelia. Real data. HG, I think my son is a mid-range narc. Use the narc detector, find out for certain. Like you, his narcissism is helping him be successful. As his father, I've been painted black. But as he's my son, how can I support him, as I believe he'll be a highly functioning narcissist? Well, that's not actually logical to do so if he's causing problems for you, because it isn't logical to continue to involve yourself with a narcissist that causes problems for you. So we need to understand what's the nature of your relationship with him. I don't mean father and son, that's already apparent. How often do you see him? When he interacts with you, is it positive? Is it the case that he doesn't come asking you for stuff, that he's courteous, etc.? In such circumstances, why then, if he is successful, why do you see that he needs support? And what's the price of that support? There's a lot of information I don't have, and therefore answering it in terms of how can you support him is difficult. The first point is, should you be doing so at all, because he's a narcissist, and therefore, since he is a narcissist, you should be obeying the first golden rule of freedom, which is once you know you go, get out and stay out. But if there are cogent reasons why the interaction is not problematic, and I would like to assess that objectively and dispassionately, then you might be able to deal with him at an arm's length basis. But whether that still means actually supporting him is questionable. Freyafan. Hi again, HG. Just listened to the video about the lieutenant and have pasted my comment here for your insight, please. After listening to your knowledge on all things narc, I'm sure that I have had experience with a lesser narcissist. Okay, use the narc detector if you want to find out for sure. Performing as a lieutenant for a mid-range narcissist. Of course, the mid-range narc was not immediately identifiable as such because her facade was good egg, and she claimed she didn't like any drama. She let the coterie deal with such things, I now realise. But she would cut off anybody who challenged her in any way. The lesser was much more evident as a narcissist, but seemed to be in awe of the mid-ranger, was very protective of her, and attacked others in ways which benefited said mid-ranger. I wonder if this is a possible dynamic. Yes. And whether the lesser was gaining status by association with the mid-ranger, access to character traits, yes. But covertly operating for her own gains, which is what I saw a glimmer of every now and then. Yes, you can have two narcissists operate in this way. And essentially the mid-ranger utilises the lesser narcissist as an attack dog kind of lieutenant. So there can be a somewhat mutually beneficial relationship in that way, but it's not one that will necessarily endure. And if you'd like to understand more about that, listen to my videos When Narcissists Collide. Brittany K. HG, would you ever consider doing videos for those who speak Spanish and French? I believe you're fluent in both. I might be wrong. You are wrong. I think it will spread your knowledge of narcissism even further. Well, it would do. I do, of course, have a channel which is in an embryonic state with regard to Spanish videos, and more are going to be added there. There is some French material in the Knowledge Vault, and certain of my books have already been translated in French, and more are on the way. Of course, if you are proficient in speaking Spanish and English, or French and English, and you'd like to volunteer to do some translation work for me, then email me at narcissist1909@gmail.com, and we can have a conversation and see if this can be arranged. Spicy Poontang has returned. If you have a strong connection and control over an empathic victim, can you ever sense and connect to their feelings or thoughts when they're not around? No, we're not telepathic. Laura G. Hello, HG. DSM is utterly inadequate when compared to your in-depth breakdown of narcissism. I quite agree. Thank you. I find myself nodding along with your descriptions and advice. Freud proposed that psychosis could not be cured, but neurosis could. Are all empaths neurotic, and therefore curable from their addiction to narcissists? Interesting observation. I wouldn't say that all empathics are neurotic, and certainly they can't be cured of their addiction to narcissists. It's part of who they are. The cake has already been baked, and it's only a bad thing when they have to repeatedly interact with our kind. And as I set out in much of my tutorial, which can be found in the Knowledge Vault, there are lots of ways to manage that addiction so that it doesn't cause you any problems. Natalie Cooper, can you do some more Ask HG videos when you get the time, please? I'll think about getting around to it. RPN Photo. HG, I work in mental health. I agree that many people have NPD. I find that my empathy is burned out from close contact with these people. Understandable. What do you recommend as a good mental refueling for me? Stay away from narcissists so that the external stressor is removed, allowing your emotional empathy and empathic traits to recover. Sophie Ann. HG, you seem to be very content in your relationship. No, I'm a narcissist. I'm never content. But the operative word is seem. I'm very good with the facade, of course. But there's never any contentment for us. There's always something to be done, always something to control, always fuel to be obtained. Always the skullduggery, the shenanigans, the games that are to be played, and that's what makes me tick. Not a problem for me, but contentment is not something that comes to alight and remain in my life. Jules, I'm learning a lot from your videos. I'm obsessed with them. I escaped from a holy narcissist, so I was amazed by your holy videos. My question is, how can I help my daughter who's now with a narcissist? I want to rescue her and her children. Well, you need to understand that that individual may find it difficult to be told what a narcissist is, and that you shouldn't go in there all guns blazing. What you have to do is, first of all, establish, are they dealing with the narcissist? Utilize the narc detector. Then, you need to understand more about narcissism, and you need to approach it in a way where you time it correctly so that you don't coincide essentially with where that individual is completely ensnared and unable to see what's going on. Many people will just not accept it and see what you're doing as interference, and you'll cause them to become entrenched. There are certain techniques that can be utilized, and the most appropriate way of doing that is to arrange to speak to me, and I will explain them to you in consultation. Samantha Martin. Hi HG, another question for you. Say a narcissist issues a series of corrected evaluations over time, okay, and then ends the formal relationship with the IPSS. Unusual that would happen. They're more likely to be shelved, but let's run with it. The IPSS is not blocked, therefore there has been no disengagement. Would the narcissist have the IPSS back if they submitted to the narcissist control? Asking for a friend. Asking for yourself, you mean, you cheeky scamp? Basically, it's very unusual for a narcissist to disengage from an intimate partner, secondary source, or a non-intimate secondary source. You're more likely to be shelved. And in the scenario, the narcissist may well take the IPSS back, but it'll be on the narcissist's terms, not on the appliance's terms. You cannot, with any guarantee of success, make the narcissist do what you want. Instead, of course, you should be asking yourself, why on earth would I want to go back to the narcissist knowing that I'm dealing with a narcissist? That's clearly not logical. And if you're contemplating as such, you're being affected by emotional thinking. I0. You said you encountered an upper grade narcissist and it's like two sharks passing by each other, nodding knowingly. Would it be an interesting read like when HG met the narcissist? Maybe you'd like to share this encounter as an anecdote. Well, that was an instance, of course, when HG met the narcissist, and when I get the opportunity to complete that book, you'll be able to learn more about the various narcissists that I've interacted with, which includes also the graters. So it's another thing on the list, but as an army of one, there is only so much I can do at any one time. Jeff, if a mid-range narcissist did your work, would they be able to identify other narcissists in their life but still remain oblivious to themselves? Absolutely correct. Yes, that's right. Rebecca Shrimpton. Hello, HG. What would happen if an IPSS, me, figured the narcissist out, and then in turn alerted and warned other suspected IPSSs about the narcissist's predatory behaviour? Well, that would be a breach of no contact because you'd be talking about the narcissist with other people, thus entering Arena 4, and so you shouldn't do it. Furthermore, the other IPSSs might not actually accept what you're telling them because of their own emotional thinking, so you're on a road to nowhere, and it's highly likely that that information would come to the attention of the narcissist, therefore you would be threatening the narcissist's control, and in all likelihood you would be met with a malign hoover. Basically, the narcissist would get in touch with you and say, what the fuck do you think you're playing at, going around talking shit about me? If that doesn't happen, they're going to smear you to the other IPSSs and say, stay away from her, she's a troublemaker, or they may just put you on the shelf and ignore you. Elizabeth Weather. I did have a look through the knowledge vault, so I apologise for asking if I just overlooked it. It's very polite of you. But as you already advise medical professionals, have you created or would you consider creating a certification course for counselling victims of narcissists? I don't have one. It is something that could occur, but not in the immediate future. that would be something that would be dealt with the Tudor Academies, which is an idea that had been floated by somebody who'd like to invest in my brand. Elaine Freeman. HG, you are fabulous. Absolutely I am. Perhaps I'm absolutely fabulous. Can you do a specific video on the instinctive planning of the upper mid-ranger? Yes, I have already done one. And you can find it in the Knowledge Vault. Vince Mangiafico. I suspect many of the people who recognise the truth in HG's brilliant insights have had first experience with the narcissist. I agree with you, Vince. I've been watching channels for years, and as I started to understand it better, I became stuck, because you see it everywhere, and I didn't want to go no contact with so many people. Listening to him is like a jigsaw puzzle falling together. I was recommending to friends, but it just wouldn't have the same impact. To him, it's like I'm preaching about a religion. Bravo, HG, you fucking maniac. This information could change the world. Well, thank you, Vince. Most kind of you. And you're right. It should change the world. More people access them. Angie S. HG, no offence, but I'm a believer in everything happening for a reason. So your videos came to me without my seeking. Ooh. Did I just send them through the ether? Seek out the people that need them. Fly, my videos. Seek them out. You are, in essence, providing me with a huge explanation of your kind. Indeed I am. For which I am grateful. You're very welcome. And this has allowed me to maintain GoSo. Well done. Which I had already implemented several months ago. So funny how the universe works in the end. Who is using who? Well, very profound. Natasha88. I'm glad someone asked about female ejaculation. I believe I had a narc one time that figured out how to make me ejaculate, and he went kind of crazy after that. Well, he may well do so. It's a manifestation of control and, of course, the provision of fuel. And he became very controlling, which really caught me off guard, because he was a typical fuckboy before that. I've always kind of wondered about that. Well, you can perhaps wonder about that whilst watching some squirting videos. V. Bliss poses a question. Hi HG, any insight is helpful, so thanks in advance. My question is, from a former intimate partner primary source, what is occurring when you've gone no contact the best way you can? Well, the best way should be total no contact. But the new intimate partner primary source is now harassing you with spam calls. Well, you haven't gone no contact, have you, if that person's able to do that? Spamming you with calls and texts from a burner phone, change your telephone number, and then they won't be able to do it. Making fake accounts and spamming you with violent videos, porn images, and it's been occurring about a year now. Like clockwork, every few months I continue to get burner calls alerts from her or them. Even though I've never replied back to any of these attempts, I ignored, blocked the attempts and carried on. Change your number. Is she the lieutenant and just doing the narcissist's dirty work, or possibly a narcissist herself? Well, she's certainly a lieutenant if what you've explained is accurate, and it's highly likely that the individual is a narcissist. You can get empathic people who, if you like, rage in such a way against the former intimate partner primary source, and that's a combination of their emotional thinking and the manipulative behaviours of the narcissist that convinces them that the immediate ex, of course, is the abuser. He's trying to get them back, he's trying to spoil their relationship, and therefore, understandably so, that individual, the current IPPS, has their view skewed and thinks that the former IPPS is the problem, and therefore goes into a rage against them in some shape or form. But to carry on in the fashion described, that does tend to suggest it's more likely to be a narcissist that's going on. I never knew she existed until after my disengagement. I'm going to change my number. Good, as my finances have finally improved. Well, I would suggest to you and to anybody else listening that the changing of your number is of paramount importance. I appreciate that in some instances it causes inconvenience, but you have to ask yourself, is it not better to change that number and deal with the inconvenience rather than have the narcissist and the narcissist lieutenant continue to harass you? What else do we have here? Christialia Antonio. I love the way you give it to the mid-rangers. They deserve it. Fucking A, they deserve it, don't they? The mealy-mouthed, walnut-balled, shriveled up, scrotal sacks that they are. K.O. Are you not okay? Hi, HG. Your information is invaluable. Agreed. What are your thoughts on these people? Oftentimes found at the office who seem to go out of their way to warn others about a particular employee, team, or department. They use phrases like, watch your back around so-and-so, or be careful about what you say, do, because someone will use it against you. Overwhelming angels? Quite possibly. Triangulation? Quite possibly. It's been my experience that they say themselves are the ones or a person to need to guard against. They are narcs who just can't help telling on themselves. Well, you may well be right. Of course, those are just indicators and one can't make a determination just from those examples, but you're right to have your narc-dar bing at the possibility that that individual is a narcissist. It is the type of behavior that a mid-range narcissist would engage in, and particularly the overwhelming angel middle range type A. What you do need to do is look at a range of other behavior over a sustained period of time and put them through the narc detector. So ends part 6. Give thanks to the Ultra and brace yourself for part 7.